Today, I'm going to be talking about something that is going to be very helpful, and that is how to recognize a master manipulator. Now, manipulation is something that we all do to a certain extent, and a little bit of healthy manipulation never hurt anyone. I mean, just think of, persuading your kids to clean their room, or if you've got a whole team that you are trying to persuade to get through some kind of a project or some really, big event or something that's going to require a lot of time and effort. And so healthy manipulation is more of a kind of healthy persuasion, helping to kind of rally the troops and get something done, and that's okay. And then there's also a little bit of the toxic manipulation that all of us do. Sometimes we slip into little toxic manipulation moments where we really want something, and we may, a little bit of toxic manipulation pops up, and it's not great, it's not good at all, because it's not a healthy way of relating to people. But a little bit now and then is something that, it's mistakes that we make as humans. But what I'm going to be talking about today is that some people literally master the art of manipulation for reasons that are pretty selfish and pretty much out there, not to just get something done, or not just having a little momentary lapse of kind of being a little, selfish or self-involved, but actually as a direct intention of manipulating other people in order to be able to get something that they want, or get into get a situation going in the direction that they want to go. And they do that on a consistent basis, and it's a pattern. It becomes a pattern. So those would be considered master manipulators, where they are actually manipulating in a toxic way. Not only is that extremely damaging to relationships and to the person or persons being manipulated, because it affects self-identity, and it creates such a lot of confusion. Manipulation leads to so much confusion. But it also creates damage to mental health. It creates to the person being or persons being manipulated. And when you're in that kind of stress that it puts on you, that toxic stress that being manipulated puts on you, that because it's affecting you, you're receiving it through your mind gets very messy, which means that your brain gets affected, and it can affect the way that the brain is functioning in terms of the immune system, in terms of how the neurons are wiring, the networks, and also our body, because of the mind-brain-body connection. And that can translate into being chronically manipulated leads to chronic toxic kind of stress, which can affect our cardiovascular function, can affect your immune system, can increase vulnerability to catching the things that are going around. And, depending on how long it goes on for, it can really cause major problems. GI is another issue. The GI system gets very badly affected when we're in that kind of level of toxic stress. And because it's so counter to what we as humans need in our relationships, we're designed for deep, meaningful connection. We're designed to love and serve each other. We're designed to have empathy. Designed is kind of the wrong word, but we're structured as the way that we function. Our functioning is optimized in situations where there's deep, meaningful connection, where there's empathy, where there's support, where there's doing the odd little thing wrong, but then recognizing that and taking ownership and saying sorry and growing and going through ups and downs and resolving it. That's what we are. That's how we function best as humans. But when it's distorted and it becomes a manipulated situation where it's not a healthy relationship, it's you're trying to make someone else do something that you want them to do, and it's on an ongoing basis, and the intention is not at all about building a healthy relationship or communicating in a way that is empathic and loving and kind and supportive and compassionate and enhancing, but it becomes very much one of just, what can I get out of you? I need this done, and there's something I want done. That is it creates an environment that over time accumulates, and the environment in your mind, brain, and body get affected, and that leads to mental and physical health problems. And wherever we have a vulnerability, we all have vulnerabilities in our bodies in different places, and we respond mentally with our mental health in different ways. But over time, that vulnerability can really affect us and affect how we dysfunction in life and can have quite devastating effects. So I want to help you to be able to recognize some signs, and then once you've recognized those signs, to be able to see if there is someone in your life. Maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's someone at work, maybe it's a work environment, whatever, that you're being subjected to their level of them being a master manipulator, and you being subjected to being toxically manipulated. And if this is a pattern in your life, as I said, if it's happened now and then, if it's just a one-off thing now and then and a person apologizes, that's okay. I'm talking about if it's a consistent pattern, that it's actually affecting how you function, and it's carrying over into other relationships, it's carrying over into your mental and physical health, it's carrying over into your work environment, and so on. So, manipulation surrounds us, okay? As I said, it can have positive effects at times, like, for example, persuading a boss, persuading a team to get something done, or getting your child to clean up the room or something like that. The negative impact of being toxically manipulated, however, can be absolutely devastating. Chronic, and I'm going to read this to you, chronic toxic manipulation is particularly damaging. That's ongoing. Okay, chronic means ongoing, acute means one-off. And it has long-reaching consequences for relationships and your physical and mental health, because toxic manipulation does not come from the desire to make others happy, which is our natural instinct. We have a natural desire to serve and make other people happy, because that feeds back to us, and it's just how we function better. But a toxic manipulator doesn't manipulate for the desire to make someone else happy, but it serves their own purpose. We don't function optimally. We're not structured to just serve our own purpose. We're structured to obviously do self-care, but we're not structured to selfishly serve our own purpose. And so a toxic manipulator is trying to serve their own purpose, and they're trying to get what they want, or to make themselves look good in some way. So very often they've spent years practicing this on numerous victims, and it's literally, you can feel like a victim. I don't know if you've had that experience, but I certainly have. And it means that the techniques are quite subtle, because they've had years to practice, and it comes cushioned in almost like sometimes in a really nice way initially, and also can come with a lot of love bombing. And love bombing is where you just load someone with a lot of good stuff, kindness and compassion, whatever, and then that gets you kind of sucked into the net, and then comes the manipulation, followed by that manipulation. As I said, and I keep on saying it, and I say it in every podcast, we all do a little bit of these things, but if you're doing them consistently in a way that's chronic and it's hurting yourself and others, then that's not the healthy version. Okay, so observation is key to developing a manipulator radar, okay, when it comes to recognizing and avoiding master manipulators. So if you're going to recognize and avoid, you have to develop literally a manipulator radar, and that comes through observation. So I'm going to give you some signals today that are going to help you develop your observation skills to see if you have been subjected to this, or if there's a person in your life or work in some way, or family, that have done this to you or doing this to you. So those individuals who take the time to observe, to check in and follow your instincts when faced with manipulation, will be most likely to rescue themselves from potentially dangerous situations, because being controlled by a master manipulator can get you into very, very dangerous situations. Very often it can lead to very narcissistically dominant type situations, where it even can be dangerous, can even lead into very abusive situations, emotionally abusive, and even lead to physical abuse. So it's really good to develop your manipulation radar through observation. So here are 6 signs to help you recognize master manipulators, so that you can protect yourself and not fall prey to their destructive cycle, because it can be a major destructive cycle. Okay, first sign. Manipulators tend to be highly perceptive and highly intuitive. Now, this may sound kind of odd, because we want to be perceptive. Being intuitive is a good thing. I mean, my podcasts constantly are teaching you how to be intuitive, and my Neurocycle app and all my work is is helping you to really tune in to your deep wisdom and your deep unconscious mind, and to listen to the waiting room of your subconscious mind, and to stand back and observe yourself, and to observe the messiness and to manage that. This is all requiring intuition, which are all really good things. As humans, we are actually really good at this, and we can develop the skill more and more and more. And our intuition tends to get a little damaged only when we aren't managing certain aspects of our mind. And that's why all the work that I do and help you with, and with my Neurocycle app and work on myself, is to help you develop your intuition. So intuition is really important. It's it's really diving deep into the unconscious mind. However, master manipulators abuse this. They use it for the wrong means. So anything good can be used for good or bad. And they develop their intuition not to monitor themselves, but to actually read other people in order to get what they want. So instead of being intuitive to make good decisions that will enhance your functioning and help others and create good, healthy relationships and make a good impact on the world and do good, they are using their intuition to actually develop the skill of reading others, not for the purpose of serving and helping and being kind, but for the purpose of actually controlling the other person. Now, we know that we should never try and control someone else. We should only be controlling ourselves. To try and control someone else is wrong. We don't have the right to control other people. So when intuition is used to read others to control them, that is then toxic, using the skill that we have as humans in the wrong way. And as I said, it sounds contradictory, because intuition is a positive trait that can help create healthy boundaries and relationships and build empathy for others and so on. And that's what it should be. But intuition can also be a powerful tool to get under someone's skin. And that's when it becomes toxic. They learn what makes others tick, not with the objective of trying to help, but to try and control. So they want to get under someone's skin, learn how another person ticks. So there's a lot of observation, watching how you react, watching how you respond, watching the things that trigger you, watching what makes you happy, what makes you sad, really trying to understand you, not with the goal of serving and loving. There may be a bit of that sprinkled in there, because not everyone is 100% bad, but the people can become so consumed with trying to understand others in order to control, because they want something that they are not, it's for their own personal gain. They want to eventually exploit, and that's really key, is they use their intuition to get under another person's skin in order to exploit them for their own gain. So this intuition helps them predict reactions that people will have to certain behavior. So then they learn to know exactly what to say to make you feel bad, or to get the reaction out of you, or to get you to do what they want you to do. And that's not what you want to do or say. It's not how you want to react. It's not how you want to feel. But you get manipulated into doing that. But they've read you, okay? So the best way to ensure that you get what you want is by learning which buttons to push for which reactions. So, for example, if making someone feel guilty, so this is what they do. They look for the best way to ensure that they get what they want by learning what buttons to push. So they learn how to push your button to get what they want. So, for example, they know that they may learn that if making someone feel guilty influences them to finally give in, then that's very important information to the manipulator. So they test that. There's kind of a test, trial and error. They use their intuition to read you through a series of trial and error. And they see, well, if guilt is the thing, if they make you feel guilty about something, then they can actually get you to cave in, and that, that'll influence you to give in to whatever they want done, whatever they want you to do for them, or what they want done, or something that they want to hide, or whatever. Then the other thing is, for example, another example, if instilling fear maybe. So maybe they read guilt is the way to get under your skin, or maybe instilling fear. If you do this, then I'm going to do that. If you don't do this, then this is going to happen. So they make you fearful. They know that you respond to certain things, make you fearful. They know what makes you scared. And the things that you fear. So they somehow link what they want you to do to those fears, and then they play on that, and that fear overrides your ability, or the guilt overrides your clarity of thought, and you give in, knowing like you don't feel comfortable. That's the thing, is when you've given in to the guilt or the fear or whatever it is that they've read that is your trigger, and you give in and you give them their way, whatever it is, whether it is they're making you feel bad about something you did, or whether it is they want you to support something that you know you shouldn't support, or let them do something that they shouldn't do, or whatever, you don't feel good about that. And that's the thing with manipulation. You know you've been manipulated because you don't feel comfortable. You just sense, you sometimes can't quite put your finger on it, but you just know that something's not right. But all the logic of what that manipulator is presenting, it seems so logical. So it just seems that you know that your guilt is validated and your fear is validated, and they're right. And it just creates such a lot of confusion. And as soon as there's any kind of comfort or confusion in you in the face of something that seems logical, there's a paradox. So key here is when you feel this paradox of, hey, what they're saying seems so logical, I should feel guilty about that. And I should feel fearful of that. And it makes so much sense what they're saying, but something's not right here. When you feel that is your manipulation radar trying to tell you something. That is your non-conscious mind that has a great manipulation radar being activated, pushing this sense that something's not right into your subconscious mind, trying to get your attention. And as you tune into this and ask questions, like be curious, why am I feeling this discomfort? What is it that they said to me that made me feel guilty? What exactly is it? What am I uncomfortable about that? What have they said that's made me fearful? Why is that making me uncomfortable? What did they want done? How did they get me to feel guilty? What was it? And what have I actually given into that I'm not comfortable with? So if you get curious, when you get that kind of nagging feeling from your subconscious that's come through from the unconscious, be curious and ask yourself those questions. Say to yourself, I acknowledge that I'm feeling this. Why am I feeling this? What is making me feel uncomfortable? What did they make me feel guilty about? I'm feeling guilty, and verbalize it. Write it down if you have to. And I didn't want to feel like that, or I didn't want to say that, or I didn't want to do that, or I didn't want to agree to that. But they made me feel guilty. What was the guilty thing? And what was the consequence? What are they now doing that I'm not comfortable with? Okay. And then as you observe that, I would recommend you write that down. And then see if that is, keep a note, keep a journal, do it in your phone or something. Just keep a note of that. And then if you're not sure, wait for the next time it happens. If it doesn't ever happen again, it's a one-off. But then if it happens again, you think, hey, this is a different situation, but it's similar. I feel like I've been read. I feel like I've been played. I feel like they're using guilt, and that they've read me and they've seen what triggers me, and I'm feeling this discomfort again. And then you go through that process and then write that down again. And then maybe you see that after a week or two that, hey, this has actually happened. We've been together physically in the same place for, 2 weeks now. And this is actually, I'm writing this stuff down almost daily. And it seems to be accelerating. The more I'm giving in, this seems to be happening 2 or 3 times a day. And it could be with a loved one at home. It could be with a loved one over the phone. It could be at work. It could be in a new work situation. It could be with a friend, a new friend, whatever. But observe. So don't ignore that manipulation radar that's being activated in your non-conscious, and putting that message into the subconscious and sending out signals into your conscious mind. Grab it, acknowledge it, question it, write it down, and observe the pattern. Okay, so that was sign number 1. Manipulators tend to be highly perceptive and intuitive. When you start writing this down, and you start then observing that person that's doing this to you, just observe watch them maybe with other people, and see how perceptive and intuitive they are, how they have this ability to read people, and not just you, but read other people. Just watch them maybe in other works, if it's a work colleague, watch how they maybe, watch how they interact with other people, the sorts of questions they ask, and the sorts of things, see if they're doing that to other people as well. Become more observant. Stand back and observe. Become an observer. We sometimes become so used to being a consumer of just things coming at us, we don't always observe enough. Observation is a very important skill in so many situations in life, and in this particular case, I'm wanting to help you develop your observation skills of people that are master manipulators. Maybe you observe what's being done to you by that person is also being done to someone else, and then you could warn them. You could go quietly on the side to that other person. Maybe it's another family member, maybe it's another work colleague, maybe it's another friend, and you could say, hey, listen, this is what I've been experiencing over the last couple of weeks or months or whatever. Did you notice this? Did you feel this? And then you could have a discussion, and then that can help you then to work through and make a decision about how you're going to handle the situation. The second sign to observe: manipulators never stay in one environment for too long, and they tend to blame this moving around, whether it's jobs, homes, situations, friendships. They tend to blame it on someone else. It's always someone else's fault. Okay, so there tends to be a bit of a history of potentially changing jobs often, or changing, maybe they have roommates and they move around in different living environments, or they have shared accommodation, or social groups, switching social groups, or shifting friendships, or shifting, if it's in a family, maybe they're really close with this family member, and then they suddenly not so close with that family member, then they're close with this one, then suddenly they form a friendship with a cousin that none of you really connect with, or something like that. And so there's this shifting around that happens. Now, obviously there's a normal amount of shifting around that happens, but this seems to be a pattern. It's always patterns that you're looking for. Okay, one-offs are not, that, as I said, we all men, but it's the patterns, the consistent patterns that you're looking for. Think about it, if you think about it, someone who's, once someone sees through your manipulative tactics, like if you go to that work colleague and say, hey, I'm having this issue, and that work colleague says, you know what, I am too, but you know what, so is X, Y, Z. So there's maybe 4 of you that you suddenly discover have been manipulated, and you confront that person, they're going to move on. It's not very difficult, it's not very easy to stay in that situation, in that job situation, when people recognize, or otherwise hopefully they go through some radical transformation and they do change and they do apologize, take ownership, and they improve and they grow. That's what you're hoping for. Same thing in a family. You can have multiple siblings where one is manipulating someone in the family, and then the family will talk to each other eventually and realize and confront that person, and maybe it's resolved, maybe it's not. Okay, so manipulators switch environments when they're no longer able to get what they want, and when they run out of victims, or victims see what's going on and take a stand against them, that tends to be the end of that road for the master manipulator. So a red flag for a master manipulator is someone whose long-term relationships are either another big red flag, or another related to this moving around or changing jobs or changing situations, environments, jobs, friendships, etc., is that someone whose long-term relationships are either non-existent or have gone through extreme highs and lows. Of course, the reason for their relationships or situations, the key to this is that it's always someone else's fault. Okay, so let me just take a step back. Relationships do change. We do find that we can be deep friends with someone, and then that situations just change. You grow, you move forward, circumstances change, you move to another city, you get married, whatever. Things change. So I'm not talking about that kind of thing. I'm talking about the red flag of change happening on a consistent basis, or extreme highs and lows in a relationship. Like they're incredibly close, and then incredibly bad friends, and then incredibly close friends, and then incredibly bad friends. But the key in those ups and downs is the master manipulator is always the victim.